Alright, so first thing you're going to do is you're going to set your RPMs to max RPM. That's done by hitting the parenthesis key right by enter, and you can toggle that back and forth between parenthesis and colon. You'll see that come up down there in your chat bar. You want to have set max RPM. Start your engine with E here, and once your engine's started, you'll notice your plane starting to roll forward, so you're going to want to stop that by pressing the Z and X key, which are your wheel brakes. At this point, a lot of pilots turn their flaps all the way down, or sometimes they don't even mess with them. I'll also put my WEP on by pressing F8. And then I like to do 10% flaps. It gives you the most lift, I feel, and it works really well with bombers. And if you have your incremental flaps set up, you'll know how to do that. So now we're just going to go ahead and throttle all the way up. And once we feel the plane start nosing over, we'll release the brakes. You'll see the throttle right here, and that'll tell you where about you're at. So, plane's starting to nose over here now once we get full throttle, and we'll release the brakes. I held it a little too long there just to emphasize it. You don't want to hold it quite so long because you can nose over very quickly. Now as we're cruising down the runway here, we're going to want to make sure we get around the 100 mile per hour range at least. Since we got a lot more runway, I'm going to get up to almost 160 before I even start pulling back on the stick. And then you just gently pull back and you should have liftoff. At this point it's very touchy. You don't want to jerk around on the stick, otherwise you can flop over, as I'm sure you've seen. Now here we go back into the landing. I cut the throttle all the way and then go back down to economy RPM, and I'll put my flaps all the way down to give me a little better lift and also slow me down. As I'm coming into the runway, I'm going to have to give it a little more throttle once I got my gear down. And you can only put your gear down once you're under 160 miles an hour. So I'll give it a little more throttle to make sure I make it all the way to the runway. Coming in a little steep here, you usually want to be a little shallower dive into this runway. That's why I'm bobbing up and down so much as I adjust my altitude. And I cut the throttle right there just so I don't bend up my propellers if something were to go wrong. And if you nose over, it's no big deal. Once your wheels touch down, I had a little bit of a hard landing, but once your wheels touch down, you want to tap your brakes. If you hold them, you'll nose over and you can bend up your props if they're still spinning. So if you sit there and tap, it'll prevent you from nosing over. If you nose over, you still get an RTB and you keep the plane, so it's not really a huge deal.